You repeatedly forget anything you study, no matter how much you want to remember it. You've tried so many techniques, but it didn't work out. Now, on this video, I got you covered because the technique I'm going to be sharing with you on this video is something that I've never shared with anyone before. And I feel like I'm giving my secrets away. So please pay attention as I go on in this video. Now, today's video is going to be a different one because on today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you this technique and how you can apply it to different subjects. I'm going to be showing you specific examples, so please pay attention as I go on in this video. And if you are new here, I'm Abayomi, and right here on this channel, I drop in tips and strategies that can help you learn and remember anything you study. And if you are a student and you really need this information on any other person, please, you are at the right place, and kindly subscribe to my channel right now. Before I go on into the techniques and how you can apply it to different subjects, I'm going to be sharing with you a particular thing that you really need in order to apply this technique perfectly. And the knowledge about this thing will actually expose you to some things that you don't know about how you learn, and it will help you apply it perfectly. Now, one thing I want you to understand is that when you are learning something at the first instance, anything you are learning is going into the working memory. And this working memory has limited capacity. It is after you've processed the information into the working memory that it goes to the long-term memory. Anything that you learn and you really want to remember, it has to pass through the working memory, and the working memory encodes the information and lets it goes into the long-term memory. So if you don't encode that information perfectly when you are processing it in your working memory, there is no how you'll be able to remember. How you encode a specific information into your brain determines whether you understand perfectly or not. The technique I'm going to be sharing with you will help you encode anything you want to learn into your working memory in order for it to be able to transfer to your long-term memory, because that is the goal. Your working memory is like a mental workspace where you temporarily store and manipulate information while performing tasks such as solving mathematics, receiving lectures, and studying. This happens in class when you get confused while a teacher is teaching or a friend is teaching you something and you suddenly lost track. Working memory is a place where you manipulate information while you are working on something, and is a place where you store information for a very short period of time. When you are solving mathematics, you use your working memory to process that information to get it into your brain. When you are in the classroom, use your working memory to understand and listen to what that lecturer is talking about. There's one thing about your working memory. Due to the fact that it has limited capacity, most of the time it gets overloaded, which is called cognitive overload. Now, at this point, when it gets overloaded, you discover that you get confused, discover that you get stressed up when you are reading or you are learning something at the first instance. And according to research, it is noted that your working memory can only encode just 7 to 4 items. Anything other than between 7 to 4 items, it's considered memory overload. So once you get to a point where you get stressed up or you get confused, that means you are actually overloading your working memory, and anything you are trying to take in at that period of time will not go in, no matter how hard you try. And this is because of the fact that you don't have a specific strategy that you use when you are trying to learn something. You just take it all in, and the technique I'm going to be sharing with you will help you take this thing all in, and you won't actually experience cognitive overload at any point in time you are trying to learn. Now, what is really this cognitive overload I'm talking about? I'm going to be explaining what cognitive overload is, and you'll be able to have an idea of problem you are dealing with. Now, cognitive overload is considered as a state of mental exhaustion that occurs when the demand placed on our working memory exceeds its capacity. How can you actually be able to get in this information without experiencing cognitive overload? That is the business of today's video, because that is what I'm going to be teaching you on today's video. Now, the technique that will actually help you to be able to manage any information that you are encoding and to prevent cognitive overload is chunking. Now, what is chunking? Chunking is considered as an encoding technique, like I said earlier. Chunking involves breaking down information into smaller or manageable units, making it easier for the brain to process. Chunking reduces cognitive overload. So now we've gotten to this section where I'm going to be going to the board and I'm going to be teaching you how you can apply this chunking anytime you are trying to learn anything in order to prevent cognitive overload. So stick with me as I teach you this. I'm going to be showing you how exactly you can apply chunking, and I'll be pointing out how you can use chunky to mentally associate words with things that you already know before, and how you can apply acronyms to some words that would make it easy for you to be able to learn, and it will be easy for you to be able to recall. And also, I'm going to be showing you how you can use chunky for certain things, which includes concepts, informations, formulas. Now, there's one thing I want to point out. You must have been using chunking before, but you don't know it is chunking. And I'm going to prove it to you on today's video. You all have a phone number, and one way or the other, you've used a particular strategy to memorize that phone number in such a way that you can remember. It's not only the intention you have to memorize the phone number that made you know the phone number, simply because you applied a particular strategy, but you are not aware of it. So I'm going to be showing you the strategy you applied, and also I'm going to be showing you how you can apply this particular chunking strategy for every other thing that you need to learn. Now, I want you to pay attention as I go on, and everything that I'll be pointing out, you can apply it to any other thing that looks like anything that you want to learn. So I might not be using the specific example of what you are learning, but anything I'm pointing out in today's video should help you learn anything at all. Now, let's take this phone number for example, just to show you how you were able to learn it, and I will associate the meaning of chunking to the example I'm trying to make, and I'll be going to the examples that you don't know about. Now, take this phone number for example. This might be the strategy you applied. So we have the code number, we have the network provider's number, and you have this chunk and you have this chunk. You know, this is the code number, and you know this is the network provider code, and this is one chunk and this is another chunk. So it is divided into 4 manageable parts, 1, 2, 3. So you know the code number, you know this, then all you have to memorize in this case is just 085 545 3994, or most of you can just say 80 55 45 39 94. So those are the strategies you applied instead of trying to memorize each number at once, 8055. It will be very difficult like that. But then I've applied either this strategy or just joining them into 80 54 55 45 39 94. So that is chunking, breaking down things into manageable units that will make it easy for you to be able to remember. So how can you apply this to words, concepts, and formulas? Now, you might be learning economics. In an exam, you are asked to state the factors of production. When you want to state the factors of production, you know that we have land, we have capital, we have labor, and we have entrepreneur. Now, when I was learning this as at secondary school, I used this particular technique and it helped me. This chunking helped me. There are 2 ways you can apply this. The first of all is you can use initialism, or you can use mental association. Now, let's take this initialism first. All you have to do is to take the first letter of each word, LCLE or LLCE. So if you know LLCE, it's very easy for you to learn when you have LLC. You know LLC, then you already know what land is in your brain. So you can use this too. Since you know LLC, you brought it back, and you know L is for land in your brain. You can link it to farm in your brain, or a large piece of land that you have. Farm, you already know farm. Farm is a virtual, you have this mental association, this virtual sense that, okay, farm, you have a picture in your brain, then you link it to the word itself. You have capital, you can link it to machines, which is something you already know before. It will be very easy for you to recall. You can link this label to factory. Factory is something, you know, bread, people that produce bread, they need labor. You can link it to that too. It will be very easy for you to even remember and be able to explain very well. Then one specific example, one specific mental association I use for labor is Dangote. Dangote is a businessman, and so if I remember Dangote, I remember entrepreneur. That is mental association. Let's take, for example, you are asked to memorize everything for your exam. You are asked to list everything for your exam. This can be very stressful, trying to memorize each of these: milk, ram, bread, blah, 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 blah. Chunking is just about, you have to categorize them into manageable chunks. Don't forget when I said that according to research, you can chunk things into 4 or 7 categories that can help you remember anything vividly. So now these are categories where you can group them, and if you group them inside this category, whenever you remember diary, you'll be able to remember, okay, what is under this. Remember fruits, what is under fruits. Pantry, what is under pantry. And meat, what is under meat. So we have to categorize each of these. So all you need to do is to just try to learn these 4 things. So once you learn these 4 things, you remember the rest. So now let's categorize that. So under diary, we have milk. Under diary, we have milk. Under fruits, we have apple. We have banana. We have carrots. Then under pantry is like a cupboard where you can keep food. Under pantry, we have rice. You can keep rice. We have, what else? We have pastes. We have olive oil. What else can we? I think bread is part of it. We can keep bread. Then under meat, we have ram, and we have chicken. Now as we've categorized them into 4 categories, all you need to remember is diary. When you talk about diary, you remember milk. When you talk about fruits, you remember fruits. When you talk about pantry, you remember this. And when you talk about meat, you remember this. Instead of trying to memorize everything at once. So that's the best way you can apply chunking when it comes to words. So I've explained how you can categorize using words. I've explained how you can chunk using mental associations, that is visualizing something, and I've explained how you can use acronyms. Now let me teach you how you can chunk formulas. It could be any formula. I'm going to be teaching you right now. Now take, for example, we can have a quadratic formula, which is minus b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. We know that this thing, they are in 2 parts. You can break them down. So we have the numerator and we have the denominator. Now you have to focus, so you can just write it down. Numerator, that is when you are trying to learn. denominator. So numerator, denominator. So on the numerator, we can have minus b plus minus, we can have the square, we can have b squared minus 4ac. So on the numerator, you know these are the elements under it. You focus on it, you break them down. Then on the denominator, we have 2a. That's all. So these are the things you need to know. 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't need to start memorizing and reciting everything at once. So once you break them down, you know each element and you try to focus on it and you write it down without holding your book. That's one way. Or you can write it in words by saying minus b plus minus b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. You can write it out as you can see on the screen. So those are the two ways you can learn that. And one last thing that I want to point out is that you can also use chunking to learn something that is so complex. You are reading something, a new topic, and you are very confused. You don't know what to do. These are ways you can learn it. For example, you could be learning calculus. Calculus is a very big topic, and there are so many things that inside this topic that you need to understand. You are introduced to a new topic, you don't understand it. Now, one thing I would advise you to do is to break it down. Break it down into manageable chunks. Like, what are the topics that you really need to know in order for you to be able to understand the complex one? So when you break them down, you pick each manageable chunks one by one. You make sure you learn one before you go to another. Then you narrow down to the complex one. So when you do that, you'll be able to understand. So break them down to manageable chunks and learn each one step by step. The reason why you can remember some words vividly is because some of it has been stored in your long-term memory and you are referring back from your long-term memory to your working memory. Now, take for example, a teacher is teaching you in class and the teacher is citing some other things. There are some things that you can easily process because it has been there before. So that's why it's important that you must have adequate knowledge of the foundation before you go to the complex one. So if you are always learning the complex one without going to the foundational aspects, it becomes difficult. So break it down, chunk each concept and learn the basics before you go to the complex one. So I hope you got so much value from this video. If you did, please smash the like button and also subscribe to the channel. You can check out this other video on how you can learn more and study less. So thank you so much for watching and see you on the next one.